Hello, my name is Mitchell Sheep, and I am presenting my paper on famous African American mathematicians. Mine was on Dr. Shirley Mathis McBay. Picture right here. Not the best one. Not a lot of pics from. I guess she didn't like her picture taken. But better to be a on paper person than a in life personality. So Dr. Shirley Mathis McBay was born May 4th, 1935, in the city of Bainbridge, Georgia. And she lived with her mother in a very rural environment. At the time, this was part of the Jim Crow law South, so there was a lot of segregation. It implemented things like segregated schools, public restrooms, transportation, education, and also a big one is hospitals as well. This kind of environment did not lead to uh, extensive or very meticulous education of these rural communities, especially the African American community, and it was a very hard and struggling environment to grow up in. However, at the time, there was a big rev in the U.S. economy and infrastructure, allowing many people to join in the workforce, recruited into the army, working in shipyards, um, even serving in army units for some African Americans, such as the 332nd Fighter Group, the Tuskegee Airmen. They were considered some of the best pilots of the war, and many African Americans served with distinction during World War II. A lot of them came back and got degrees, became higher educated, and went on to have storied careers in their fields. However, where do women stand in this in the African American community? Well, most women in white communities were put in support roles during the war, and so African Americans being of lesser status at the time in the U.S., unfortunately, they were delegated into support roles, mainly staying at home and taking care of kids for the most part, but also found themselves in many roles like textiles and building infrastructure, stuff that had gone to white workers previously, but now since somebody else is doing it, many women, African American women, got the chance to work in these fields. Shirley's mom was one of them, and that was how she was able to support her through school. Shirley was a very brilliant little girl. She actually beat high schoolers in a high school math competition at just age 10. Believe it or not, she was off to a good start there. She would then go on to graduate high school at age 15. Like I couldn't even think about that. um, she would then go on to apply to Spelman's College. Uh, excuse me, Plain College in Augusta, Georgia, at just age 15. Um, I, yeah, that just goes to show you how brilliant this woman was from an early age. She got accepted into college at age 15. Whereas by the time she was 19, not only had she graduated before she turned 20, but she graduated with summa cum laude honors. From there, she began teaching at Spelman College in Atlanta, Georgia. College was founded in 1881 as an Atlanta Baptist female seminary, but transitioned into Spelman College in 1924 and is a leader in the education of African American women today. While teaching at the college, McBay had the opportunity to apply to Atlanta University, being accepted soon after she started at Spelman and obtaining a Master's of Science in Chemistry in 1957. So by the time she was 22, she already had a master's degree. Just wow. Only a year later, she would complete a Master's of Arts in 1958, so she was double mastering at the time. During her time at Atlanta University, she met Dr. Henry McBay. He was a famous chemistry professor who taught at Morehouse College, a prominent black college, otherwise known as an HBCU, and the alma mater of many civil rights activists, including Martin Luther King Jr. and Julian Bond. Shirley McBay bore one son with Dr. Henry McBay named Michael while working on her two master's degrees. Her, her family began to shift that brought her away from her chemistry focus, which she had started on her first master's degree. She loved the subject, but and had been highly encouraged by her husband to continue, though she realized that with an infant son, it may not be practical to work in the lab long hours and be away from home all that time, especially with an infant and eventually with another one coming on the way. Mathematics provided an alternative that would allow her to study from home while being there for her son and husband. Just 4 years later, she would give birth to a second son named Ronald, and later was accepted into the PhD program for mathematics at the University of Chicago. Made possible by the support of her family and her husband Henry taking their oldest son Michael in Atlanta and Henry's mother taking their infant son Ronald in Texas. However, she was shocked when visiting her son Ronald in Texas that he was calling his grandmother Mama. This led to Dr. Shirley McBain transferring to the University of Georgia, having received the United Negro College Fund sponsored by the IBM Corporation in 1964. Getting to reunite with her family was a relief for her, especially since she was only 73 miles away, making visiting a lot easier. Um, she was also able to board with an African American woman named Miss Oppeling in the area, who was very friendly to her and very supportive of her education. She stated that her advisor, Dr. Thomas Brano, was very supportive and that she had more support than the University of Chicago while attending. Dr. McBay finished her PhD in 1966 with a thesis titled Homology Theory of Mendelian Lie Algebra. The thesis was on a topic first introduced in 1929 by L. E. Carta to study topology of Lie groups, which are groups whose elements are organized continuously and smoothly, making them differentiable manifolds, as opposed to discrete groups where elements are separated. The topic also focuses on homogeneous space, which for group G is a non-empty manifold or topological space X on which G acts transitively, meaning X is non-empty when each pair X, Y, and X exists in G such that G product X equals Y. Or excuse me, G cross X equals Y. After obtaining her PhD in mathematics, she was offered a position at University of Georgia in Athens to teach, though she declined the offer and instead returned to Spelman as an associate professor of mathematics. Less than 4 years later, she would become the chair of mathematics department in 1970. She has been credited by her colleagues at the college, along with Dr. Gladys Glass, as being one of the pioneers who built the mathematics department to what it is today. Dr. McBay became the chair of the Natural Science Division, which Spelman's recently created after she had taught as an associate professor for a couple years. She left in 1975, however, and while she was also there at the University of Georgia in Athens, she also served as the associate academic dean from 1973 to 1975, coinciding with her time as natural sciences chair. Dr. McBay enacted pre-freshman summer programs to increase interest in science majors. This then led to the formation of a chemistry department and the needed renovation of existing science buildings. After leaving Spelman College, Dr. Shirley McBay took up a job at the National Science Foundation, or NSF for short, where she became the program director of Minority Institution Science Improvement Programs. In 1980, she became the Dean of Student Affairs at Massachusetts Institute of Technology, or MIT. During her 10 years as dean at MIT, she also served for 3 years as director of the Quality Education for Minorities Project, or QEM for short. The QEM project conducted a 30-month study of educational troubles of 5 underrepresented minority groups, which made 58 specific recommendations of how to fix these problems in each minority group. Dr. McBay founded QEM Network in 1990 and became the president. The network meant to replace the project and implement changes recommended by the study the project had concluded would be helpful the decade before. Amongst these changes were several National Science Foundation supported projects, with some still in effect today. McBay was awarded the American Chemical Society Award for encouraging disadvantaged students into careers in chemical science in 2009, sponsored by Camille and Henry Dreyfus Foundation. In 2016, however, she stepped down from the QEM network, but she is still alive today and she still likes to support her community as well as minorities in the STEM field.